In your weekly horoscope, the lines between fact and fiction are blurred in typical Neptunian fashion. Hi all, my name is Haley Comet. This is Magic Monday, particularly your Magic Monday astrology forecast for the week of January 6th until January 12th, 2025. Not just what the planets are doing, what planets are where, and what planets are talking to who, but what this means for your universe, what this means for whatever it is that you have planned this week and every week, how you will feel these influences at work, within your relationships, within your errands, and furthermore, how we make our lives more magical is utilizing astrology as a tool to experience more alignment and flow, grabbing hold of some of the more opportune energies as foretold within the weekly astrology, and steering clear and mitigating some of the celestial snags that we may hit as we navigate the week. And I want to let you know, just in case this is your first time to my Cosmic Corner, I'm here every single week ready to either guide you into the week ahead or support you midweek if you listen in the middle of the week, or support you in reflecting back on the week that you've experienced. So whether you're about to step into this week, you're navigating this week, or you're wrapping up this week does foretell a bit of a crash landing down to reality. So let's talk about it. We're currently in Capricorn season, which is very pragmatic. It is very realistic. It is very grounded. That being said, we currently have Venus in its exaltation of Pisces, and North Node also enters Pisces this weekend. We start this week with Mercury square Neptune, and we wrap up this week with Mars square Neptune. And what you need to know about having so much Neptunian Pisces energy in the air is that there can be a lot of dreaminess alive currently. Now, the positive way that you can work with this is really taking your visions, taking your ideas, and grounding them down, allowing yourself to take this visionary nature of all of this Neptune and Pisces energy in order to build towards something, to chisel something, to take your dreams and turn them into things, is sort of the nudge here. But there's also a danger when it comes to navigating this week around concocting a certain vision within our head and feeling ultimately disappointed by reality or how things play out. You know, I think this world is dense. We need a vacation from reality every so often to really cultivate and escape into our own dream world every so often. This is a necessity with this much Neptune and this much Pisces. But sometimes we could build something up within our own mind and feel utterly disillusioned and disappointed by reality because it just can't compare. You know, when we're daydreaming, we don't have to play by the rules or the bounds of reality. So there can be an energy around building something up and feeling a bit disappointed by the reality of it. Or, as we'll talk about when it comes to this week, concocting this whole story within your mind, feeling some type of way, and then needing to balance that with the reality of how things are. You know, I'm allowed to say it because I'm a Pisces myself, but sometimes when it comes to Neptune energy and Pisces energy, there could just be this world building, either in a positive way, bringing visions to life, bringing dreams to life, but sometimes there's this energy around concocting this whole world around how this person actually hates you and like hurting your own feelings by this world that you built that's not exactly true to reality. So whether you're building positive worlds or building more negative worlds, there does feel to be, with Mercury squaring Neptune, getting lost in some sort of story, some sort of idea, some sort of dream, and then with Mercury entering Capricorn, needing to deal with the reality of the situation. Now, this could be talking yourself down around, okay, this person does not hate you. Like within reality, you guys just talked last week, like they're probably just busy. Like there could be an energy of talking yourself down. Or with the energy of Mercury square Neptune, you could have built something up to be this illustrious thing, and then just reality failed to deliver. Because when we concoct things within our cute little noggins, we tend to add a little bit of sparkle, we tend to add a little bit of a rose-colored tint, we tend to make things a little bit more mystical and magical, and reality just can't always live up to what it is that we concoct within our brains, the visions that we create. And part of this is around surrendering how we thought that things should be in order to embrace how they are. This is alive with the nodal shift this weekend. North Node in Pisces asking us to trust the universe and trust in its timing. And South Node Virgo, let go of this idea of perfection, let go of this need for control or forcing things to align in accordance to our own timeline. And so whether it's being sobered down to reality and that being a relief, or being sobered down to reality and that being a disappointment, that's an energy that I do see alive this week. I also want to highlight, we have Mars shifting from Leo back into Cancer. So Mars is still retrograde, and now with Mars in Cancer, we can feel that we are more inclined to take action on our emotions. We can feel like our energy levels waver, oscillate, and I will say it's going to be important to really grab hold of those moments of inspiration. They could be rare, but you need to grab them. You need to take those visions down from the ethers and make something happen. And this could show up around getting an idea for a song. Take action on it right away. Do not delay. Follow the nudges of muse and inspiration. But also if you get a random nudge, a random motivation around, I want to clean out my closet. My love, you know and I know that those motivations don't come every so often. Like, you need to grab hold of that. You need to follow the wave of inspiration as they come up. But that's where it also gets disappointing, because you might have had certain plans around what you were going to put your energy towards, and then you wake up and you're like, the last thing that I want to do is clean my closet. Like last night, I was all raring to go at 10 p.m. wanting to finally dig through the closet and get rid of stuff. But now the tide changed. You know, things are constantly oscillating, and Mars answering to the moon reminds us of this. The moon is constantly waxing and waning, and sometimes we think, I'll still have that idea for that song in the morning. I'll still have that same motivation to clean out my closet in the morning. Things are constantly shifting. Grab hold of those moments that you are inspired as they show up. It might be late at night. It might be like at 4 a.m. You might wake up and be like, I'm randomly inspired. You gotta grab hold of it. You gotta listen to your energy. Because if it's not there, you know, Mars is retrograde. This is a time to rest, be still, go inward. I know this is a time with like New Year's resolutions that we're being told it's all around, you know, betterment and self-improvement. But technically, when we follow the nudges and the rhythms of astrology, the new year begins in March. It's not to say you shouldn't take strides to be your best self. It is Capricorn season after all. But if you feel like you're being pressured at this moment that you need to be doing more and hustling more, Mars retrograde, especially in Cancer, is seeing where it is that you can maybe do less but be more, because you're doing so with your full soul, your full spirit. You're allowing your energy to be taken by this song. You're allowing your energy to be taken by this closet project, which is a lot more of intuitive a way to move rather than operating our life through the shoulds and I have to do this. It's like, see where it is that you can grab hold around what it is that you're feeling guided to, what it is that you're feeling pulled towards. And maybe that's a nap. Maybe you're tired, and that's okay too. Maybe that's the disappointment energy of this week. Who knows? Follow the rhythms, follow the tides, follow the phases of your changing energetic levels. We'll of course dive into this astrology so much deeper thematically as well as day by day. But before we do, take a step inside my cosmic cafe. What are you sipping on as we navigate this week's astrology? I am drinking Avika caffeine-free alternative energy. This is the exotic citrus juicy cherry Tokyo flavor. I love the can, the clouds, and the flowers were giving me all of the Venus Pisces vibes. And this is not sponsored whatsoever, but I will say they sent this to me, which I was like, am I becoming a beverage influencer? Little old me in the Cosmic Cafe. So I was so honored that they sent this to me. And so my honest opinion of this, it's honestly delightful. I love the taste of it. I am feeling quite energized, maybe a little scattered, but we'll see how it goes as I continue sipping this can, if I get a little bit more focused, because it does say here, mental focus and clarity right here, but I'm also counteracting that with Mercury square Neptune this week, which is the exact antithesis of mental focus and clarity. So maybe it's like counteracting one another, or maybe it'll just take a little bit more time for my mind to kind of zero in. But anyways, thank you, Avika, for sending this to me. And I just want to share super quick. You know, an experience that I had really embodies and exemplifies what it feels like to be a Venus in Pisces, because we're all currently experiencing Venus transiting Pisces. I'm a natal Venus in Pisces, so this transit and my Venus return has had me just reflect on this placement and how it is that I feel about it. And the experience that I had the other day just really like exemplifies what being a Venus in Pisces is like for me anyway. I was grocery shopping the other day and I was walking by the flowers. You know, Venus in Pisces is asking us to stop and smell the roses, right? Appreciate the beauty around you, those mystical and magical little moments that take us out of the mundane of, you know, grocery shopping and looking for zucchini, right, in the produce section. So I was just pushing my cart and looking at all the pretty flowers. But then something caught my eye, and it was like around the corner from the flowers, there was like this collection of bouquets that they had seen better days. They had seen better days. And it just made me so sad because there was all of these like featured flowers and featured bouquets that were so bright and people were buying them. And then there was just like the reject bouquets hidden behind them. And I guess it was like the discounted bouquets, like the ones that nobody wanted. So they discounted them because they were going to die. And me, just looking for zucchini in the produce section, I suddenly felt sad for the flowers who had not been chosen. Like I was thinking about maybe they used to be in the front and they would just watch all of their flower friends get chosen and get to go to different homes and be given as gifts and be appreciated. And they just, day after day, were just stuck in the fluorescent grocery store next to the produce, just waiting for the day. And now they're in the discount. And is anyone ever going to choose them? And so this was my thought process. And that feels very Venus and Pisces. Love knows no bounds. I will love the underdog. I will love the rejected bouquets. So, of course, I got diverted from my mission of finding zucchinis, and I went over to the discount bouquets and I looked at all of them and tried to send them energy around you all are special and are worthy of being chosen and worthy of love and appreciation. And then, of course, I had to take some home. Which, these are beautiful. They did not deserve that. Like, yes, they might be dying a little bit. They might be a little wilted. But I think the most beautiful things are, they have a story to tell. They've lived. They've seen some days in that Ralph's produce section, okay? I love something with a story. I feel like these flowers tell a story. They have backstory, they have romance, they have intrigue. So anyways, that experience just really encapsulated what Venus in Pisces is like, at least from my perspective, having this placement. So thank you, flowers, for adding your beauty to this week's Magic Monday. You know, one person's discounted bouquet is one person's steal of a deal. I mean, $4. They're beautiful. So if you are new here, I like to set up your horoscope by firstly walking you through a hypothetical scenario that sort of gives texture to what this astrology feels like, because a lot of these influences can feel very far from us around Mars is entering Cancer and Sun is squaring Chiron. What does that mean for my world, for my experience? And this is essentially a technique to help give some nuance so it feels a little closer to you. This might not be an exact situation that you've experienced or that plays out this week, but it helps you give some texture around, oh, I've been through something similar like that at work, or my sister's been through something like that. It helps personalize astrology a little bit more, or translate it into something that's a little bit more practical and tangible and accessible, rather than these concepts that can feel very ethereal. This makes it real. So this week's astrology feels like losing sight of the plot is sort of the energy here. So Mercury is in Sagittarius, and we know that Mercury in Sagittarius is on a journey. And with the square to Neptune, we could be on a journey and lose our way. And that could show up around streams of thought. You're thinking something particularly, and then you just lose sight of it. And you're like, I have no idea where I'm going with this. This could be an energy where you get all excited about a particular idea, and that sends you into one rabbit hole, that sends you into another rabbit hole, where you forget what you were even doing in the first place. Or in this week's vibe check, losing the plot around what you were fighting about to begin with. Do you ever have that where you're in an argument with your boo or with a friend, or there's a certain debate at work, and then you just lose the plot, you lose your point, you lose why you felt disrespected or what your point really was. You just kind of get lost in it, but at this point you're already this deep into fighting for this particular point that you just keep going, hoping that you'll find it along the way. That's sort of the energy. So to bring this to life, we will say that you are upset about something and you vocalize this to your partner. You know, with Mars in Cancer, especially retrograde, we might be feeling a little bit more sensitive. We might be feeling a little bit more spiky. And with Mercury square Neptune, again, this is world building energy. We can sometimes world build this whole story around how this hurt us on so many different levels, and how this is so disrespectful, and they've done it these other times, and just building this whole world where when you are ready to bring this up with your partner, all of your frustrations, you already are going into it with this whole like thesis inside your head around all of the ways why that was not okay and how you would never do that. And as you're having this particular argument, they're saying some things that are making sense. They're saying some things that are making sense, and you are losing sight of that 5-page essay that you'd built up within your own brain. And now you're even losing sight around, what was I frustrated about? Or what was my point? What was I trying to express? I could feel like it disappears. But you're still, maybe this is the influence of Mars still separating from Pluto. You still want to, argue and battle. You still feel like your feelings are hurt, but with Mercury square Neptune, it could be an energy around, what's the point again? What am I fighting for? What am I mad about? And we'll say within the vibe check that a contributing reason to you kind of building up this whole story and getting really worked up and really emotional and feeling really sensitive is because of where you personally have been struggling. Because we see this with the Capricorn Sun square Chiron in Aries. We'll say within the vibe check that there's been certain frustrating situations at work where you felt overlooked. And so when your partner did something that made you feel overlooked in a certain essence, it triggered you to such a deep level because that's something that's resonant in other arenas of your life. So when you went to go have this argument with your partner, you realized this is not an argument that I need to be having with you. Like, this was just something that was triggered because of this dominant story that I'm experiencing, we'll say at work, because Capricorn Sun energy, or maybe even just something that I've felt throughout the years is around feeling overlooked. So when you came home and you got me plain yogurt when I asked for vanilla, it added to this energy around feeling overlooked. And again, we'll say you opened the fridge, you saw the plain yogurt, they weren't home at the moment that you recognized that it was plain and not vanilla. You worked up this whole story around, this just shows that I'm not seen as a partner. How do they not notice that I only eat vanilla yogurt? Why would they bring back plain yogurt? And then when they come home, Mars in Cancer isn't always the most direct energy in terms of anger, so maybe you're kind of like icing them out or being a little bit like, yeah, I'd love to have breakfast tomorrow, but I don't know what I'm going to eat my granola with because I don't eat plain yogurt. Like, not being as direct with what it is that you're mad about. And again, when you get into the argument, all of these things that you worked up around them buying plain yogurt means that they don't see me as I am, that I'm being overlooked. But in a conversation, it's like, I'm so sorry, they didn't have vanilla, so I got you plain. I thought it would be the closest swap. I see you. I know you like vanilla yogurt. But the reason kind of all of your points that you were kind of like in a fume, concocting, waiting for them to come home and to point out that the yogurt is wrong, the reason it fell apart is because you recognize, oh, I wasn't really mad at you. I was triggered because this is something that's so dominant in other arenas of my life, feeling like my projects are overlooked, feeling like my bosses aren't appreciating or acknowledging my skills or talents. So to me, looking in the fridge and seeing plain yogurt when I eat vanilla yogurt most mornings, just acknowledge that I'm not seen, which is not necessarily an issue with you. It's just an overall issue that I'm dealing with. And this week's vibe check is positive. It's having this yogurt battle, okay? Yogurt battle 2025. It's having the yogurt battle, recognizing, oh, this was misdirected, and this situation just kind of triggered a very raw, sensitive part of me. And because of that, I can pour into that part of me that feels wounded, that feels frustrated by the situation. At least we can strive to move forward in a more practical way, right? With Mercury and Capricorn, now that we've taken out of the fantasy or what we built things up to be around my partner doesn't love me because they got plain yogurt instead of vanilla, when we take it out of Neptune land, because it could also be concocting a reality in which everything that we want is always there, right? In our dream world, when we fantasize about things, when we fantasize about, our soulmate or our one true love, we tend to concoct things around, well, they'd always get me vanilla yogurt, right? Or they'd always do this, or they'd always show up this way, or my job would always do this. That's what I'm saying. When we take things out of our dreams into reality, sometimes the store is going to be out of vanilla yogurt. Sometimes there's going to be situations at work that are not all that we thought this job was going to be when we were getting our masters. There will be times in which reality disappoints us. And with Mercury and Capricorn, it's just being realistic about it. If there is a disagreement with Mercury and Capricorn seeking, how can we be proactive? How can we work through this? What are some steps that will be helpful next time? Like, do you want me to call you when they don't have vanilla yogurt to see if another kind would be accessible? Like, how can we move forward? As well as, how can you let this situation illuminate, this is something that I'm feeling triggered about. This is a theme that's been alive within my world. What are some steps that I can support and improve this arena of my life? Like, are there conversations that I need to have with my bosses, my authority figures around I'm not feeling seen as an employee? Are there certain projects that would be more of a fit for my skill sets? Are there certain modalities that I can do in order to support my own worldview, that I am seen, that I am appreciated? That's where Mercury square Neptune energy can get dangerous, although that feels like a dramatic word, because ultimately Mercury is our mind, and our mind wants to be right, and we look for clues that support our mind being right. And with the square to Neptune, we can be filtering through all sorts of data, picking apart and intentionally illuminating the parts of reality that support our thesis, right? If the thesis that we've concocted is my partner doesn't love me, all of a sudden we'll look at everything within our world around, they got me plain yogurt instead of vanilla, and they left socks there. That means that they don't see me because they know I don't like socks on the ground, and this certain situation went. We'll filter through all of the data and pull in the data that's the most relevant for that world that we're wanting to build. This is where we get into the positive energy of Mercury square Neptune, because if you hold the vision and are wanting to support this argument around I am loved, I am seen, your brain will filter to look for ways in which you are seen and ways that you are loved around, wow, I have a partner who does my grocery shopping for me and bought me yogurt because I eat it every day. Again, it's important what we fixate on. You know, Neptune is a planet that governs, the film industry, and there's so much that's around perspective, that's around lighting and shadows, what we obscure in the shadows, what we put in the foreground via lighting. And we do that within our mind as well, obscuring certain details if they're not supporting that particular worldview around I am not seen, I am not acknowledged, I am constantly overlooked. Our brain will pick up certain data that will support that argument. And again, you're allowed to feel frustrated with Mars in Cancer, retrograde. A lot of us can feel a little bit more spiky and feel a little bit more sensitive. But with Mercury square Neptune, it's just important to pay attention to what it is that you are illuminating and what information you are putting into the shadows, because our mind takes in so much information every single day. It's too much to take on, so we filter it by way of how it is that we perceive the world. And just as we can do this with our own perspective, being cautious and mindful that other people can do this with theirs, right? Sharing certain details, leaving out other ones. Mercury square Neptune, there could be some energy earlier this week around deceit, lies, information presented here, other information fogged out of you, right? Like maybe your partner said, hey, there wasn't any vanilla, that's why I grabbed plain. But what they left out is that there was some vanilla, but it was bigger size and they didn't have room in their basket for that. So they settled with the plain. Again, Mercury square Neptune, sometimes there's information that's presented, sometimes there's information that's obscured. Sometimes there's information that you zero in on, sometimes there's information that you just bypass. And so just recognizing that that is alive. And with Mercury and Capricorn, the focus is around pragmatically, realistically, how do we move forward? And even with Mars trining Neptune over the weekend, how do we deal with conflict in a more compassionate way? Because not everybody is going to experience conflict this week. It's not that it's necessarily a tense week. We just could be a little sensitive and spiky and building up a world that's validating our own triggers, our own inadequacies, or what we feel very sensitive or vulnerable about. But I would say over the weekend with Mars trine Neptune, it'll be a way around how can we compassionately deal with conflict? How can I compassionately, advocate for myself? How can I take action in a way that will make this work environment a healthier place for me, a more flowy place for me, where I'm not misplacing all this spiky, sensitive energy that I'm drinking up, right? We've got Venus in Pisces, Mars in Cancer. We have more water energy in the cosmos, so we can be feeling a little bit more emotional. We can be feeling a little bit more sensitive. So we'll talk about each of these aspects so much deeper in a day-by-day analysis. I do just want to let you know that all times that I mention are PST, so please adjust to your time zone before putting them into your planner, as many of these energies may land at a different time or even different date in your own local time. So just bear in mind that time zones are a thing. Time stamps are also a thing. You can find those available below if you like to listen to the beginning of the forecast and then day by day. If you like to go back to certain days, like what was up with that day, that is available for you below. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the astrology for Monday, January 6th. So happy Monday, happy Magic Monday at that. At 2:44 a.m. PST, Mars enters Cancer. Now, Mars does not technically love being in Cancer, but that's not to say that we can't still tap into the potency of Mars in Cancer. You know, Mars retrograde, Mars in Cancer, it does ask us to be intentional around where we are exerting our energy and being intentional around where we are reserving our energy and making that an intentional act. Not everything deserves your attention. Not everything deserves your energy. And with Mars in Cancer, it is kind of this mama bear energy. Like Mars is very fierce and Cancer is around being fierce around what's sacred, being fierce around protecting your own emotional state, being fierce around what parts of you this could have bothered. You know, it's like, it's giving yourself grace. Yes, it could feel dramatic, the yogurt dispute of this week's vibe check, but it's knowing that the underlying emotions are coming from a more tender or vulnerable place. And this is you tapping into your fierceness to want to advocate for the part of you that has felt bruised and broken and overlooked, like, you know, discount bouquets at the grocery store. And maybe the way that you went about it wasn't ideal, but you weren't just standing up for you and your breakfast eating desires. You were standing up for the version of you who was last to be picked in dodgeball when you were 7. You were standing up for the version of you who was never seen by their crush when you were in 7th grade. You're standing up for the version of you who felt overlooked by family. It's like, we have to give ourselves grace when something comes in that's really big, even if the final straw of what caused you to get into a tizzy around feeling overlooked, even if that's ridiculous, like, okay, it's just yogurt, like life does go on. It's giving yourself grace and compassion for the depth by which it comes from. And with Mars and Cancer, it's just wanting to protect what in our life is, you know, tender and sacred, and maybe even just protecting the inner reservoirs of where it is that we've felt hurt and where it is that we're feeling overlooked in this week's vibe check. And so with Mars and Cancer, you can find if you are a mom, if you are a dog mom, cat mom, plant mom, anything that you take care of, anything that you nurture. With Mars, there could just be this energy around, don't you dare come close to my chihuahua. Don't you dare say that to my child. Like Mars and Cancer, canvas energy around really wanting to protect what's sacred. You could also find that you're wanting to invest more of your energy within your physical home. Again, more of your energy is going towards what's sacred. Not everything is deserving of your time and energy. You deserve a home environment that makes you feel safe, safe to unwind. A lot of times when we are more sticky or more spiky, there is something to address here around where am I not nurturing myself or where am I not sticking up for myself? Because again, within this week's vibe check, it was misdirected. You weren't sticking up for yourself at work or at least advocating for the results that you wanted to see there. So this was a situation in which you finally felt empowered enough to allow yourself to be heard and allow yourself to express yourself and kind of fight for, stick up for these vulnerable parts of you. You know, we tend to direct our anger towards places and spaces where we feel like it's safe for us to direct it towards. If we already don't feel on solid footing, if we don't feel, you know, grounded and at home and at ease with somebody, we might have a hard time advocating for ourselves and standing up for ourselves. And so sometimes that's why we have no problem standing up for ourselves around a partner, around a sister or something like this. And maybe you feel a little bit more challenged expressing anger to a friend or some other dynamic where maybe there's a fear around, if I push, if I advocate for this, what if they, you know, leave? A lot of times when we do feel safe with someone, we do feel more comfortable arguing with them or expressing conflict to them, which again, conflict is part of any sort of relationship that you have, but it's also just knowing and just being conscious if there are certain connections where somebody is being a little bit of your punching bag, so to speak, just because you feel safe to allow your anger to be directed here, even if it's misdirected. It's just an arena of your life in which you can feel more empowered advocating for yourself, which isn't always fair. That's just something that I do want to highlight. And because even with Mars trine Neptune, you know, Neptune has to do with illusion and fantasy. Sometimes we build someone up to be the enemy and it's like, I'm not your enemy, I'm just your partner who got you yogurt. Okay, I see you. That's why I got you yogurt. And I'm sorry that it wasn't the flavor. It's like Neptune could be this illusion around who is the enemy here? Who am I fighting here? Because with Mars retrograde, part of it could be ourselves, you know, fighting ourselves or fighting for where we're not feeling empowered or what actions we're not taking. And on that note, I would just say, it's not healthy to internalize your anger. You know, sometimes Mars retrograde can be us holding on to something, holding on to something, holding on to something until we finally explode. It's not seeing something wrong or bad with your anger. Again, what you do with it, that's your responsibility, but it's not bad to have an emotion or to feel upset about something. What you do with it, that's the important thing. And you could use it to put into your art, you know, with Mars trine Neptune. Write a diss track. Write a diss track about plain yogurt, okay? Like, take that anger and put it somewhere else. Really, the encouragement with Mars retrograde is ask, where is this coming from? What am I really mad at? What am I really making the enemy? Who is really the enemy here? That might just be important to reflect upon. And as I highlighted, there could be just random inspirational moments that you get to create something that might not be for public consumption. And that's okay. That's why I don't want you to get too lost in the sauce of the Capricorn energy around build, hustle, girl boss. Yeah, certainly. If you're in that vibe, go for it. We do have a moon in Aries today, so you could be feeling inspired to tackle all the challenges and do all the things. But just because it's not seen by others does not make it not valuable. Again, the more that we show up for our sacred environment, the more that that does fortify everything that we do within the external world. If you're feeling burnt out and drained and your home kind of reflects that, like you feel like it's scattered, you feel like you have all this stuff, a lot of times attuning to our own physical sanctuary weirdly echoes into the public arenas of life. Like, a lot of times your home is a reflection of your soul, of your mental state. And there might be parts of you that feel like I need to be hustling and chasing and getting all of these numbers. But sometimes the time that we invest, especially if you're feeling spiritually motivated or randomly inspired, the time that we invest around beautifying our home environment or just making it ultimately a comfier, cozier place to be, it does pay out dividends. The more that you pour into your sacred home that encases you, the more you pour into yourself. And whether it's beautifying your home, working on a sacred project, even just like self-care, something like this, follow those nudges, because I do feel like focus is going to be a problem on Monday. Whatever you thought you were going to work on today, however you envisioned your day, you're wrong. You're wrong. Even if you're like, well, Haley Comet, I'm working on this particular case brief, or Haley Comet, I'm decorating this cake today. With Mercury square Neptune, you might be doing that within the physical, but your mind is going to be somewhere else. You know, if you're at work, you could find that you have 2 tabs open planning for your Bahamas vacation. If you are decorating that cake, you could find that you are listening to a podcast and so entranced that you accidentally do the trim as blue icing rather than pink. There's just an energy where, yeah, you might be physically present in what you're doing, but like mentally you're somewhere else. You are in your own dreamland with Mercury square Neptune. And you can also find you're going on all of these adventures, these side quests that you were not necessarily anticipating. So you might find like you are like, I gotta do work, I gotta finish this particular project, but you know, I'm out of milk, so maybe I'll just walk to get a coffee. And then you go walk to get a coffee and you're like, well, I can't exactly start work until I eat something. So then you walk and you get something to eat. And then you're like, well, it's such a beautiful day. I'll just stay outside for a couple of hours, then I'll go to work. Like, there just could be an energy where you're getting lost in the side quest of it all. And even if you're not physically venturing from place to place, like mentally, whether it's tabs, going into different tabs, learning about different things, just dealing with a lot of distraction. That's why it's important to grab hold of what it is that you feel motivated to do, because we are more productive when we are enveloped in what we are doing. Like, you might have had a certain vision around, today I've got to decorate this cake. Today I've got to decorate this cake. But you're like fighting yourself to decorate this cake because your energy keeps being pulled in different directions. But you're like, come on, back to the cake, back to the cake. If you were to wait, because I do believe this happens when we follow our energy, if you were to wait until the time that you feel genuinely inspired to decorate the cake, you would probably get it done with a lot more flow, with the correct color of icing. It's a real thing. When we flow and don't force, we unlock more brain power from ourselves, because you're not fighting yourself to keep yourself focused. And maybe you do have a deadline. You're like, Haley Comet, I wish, but this legal brief is due today. There just could be an energy around with Mercury square Neptune, maybe giving yourself little breaks, satiating the Mercury and Sagittarius dreaming energy, and then coming back to Earth every so often. But if you have some leeway within your schedule, just see where inspiration takes you. See what pockets of information your mind wants to get lost in. And a general guidance for today is Know that the communication you receive may not be clear. Be mindful around not building worlds around what is said. Also, not building worlds around what is not said. Again, we could be reading into things quite a bit. I would also just be mindful, people could be either purposefully or not purposefully deceptive, sharing certain things, keeping other things in the shadows. This would not be the time that I would sign anything too terribly important. It would not be the time that I would commit to that Bahamas trip that you have on your tabs as you're working. Like, wait for Mercury to enter Capricorn. Okay, wait till you review the budget and review the realistic factors of it, because with Mercury square Neptune, we're just kind of lost in the sauce of the dream and the fantasy and the illusion, and the travel agent that we're talking to could be selling us on the dream and leaving out certain details around, oh, well, it's actually a timeshare and you're contractually obligated to do this, this, and this. You know, Mercury square Neptune, dreamy it is. Realistic, it is not. So just being conscious of that as you navigate the day, and also just being mindful of the worlds that you're building. Being mindful of what data you are filtering through, what you are intentionally expanding, what you are intentionally diminishing. And I would challenge you to really look out for things that you are grateful for. Like, give yourself the intention in starting Monday, I will look out for things that I'm grateful for. I will have gratitude that my partner got me yogurt. Wrong kind. When have I ever ate plain yogurt? Just kidding. I'm grateful to have a partner who buys me yogurt. And again, we have Sun square Chiron building, middle of the week. And sometimes, you know, those wounded parts of us, those vulnerable parts of us, even if it's not the most empowered parts of us, they want to feel right. They want to feel validated. So that's when we'll filter through data to expand what we feel like about ourselves. That's why self-concept is really important, because I genuinely see myself as being someone who is looked and cherished and appreciated. My mind will filter out the times that I'm overlooked and expand the times that I do feel seen, that I do feel acknowledged, that I do feel appreciated, to verify my mind. Again, the mind always wants to be right. And with Mercury square Neptune, you know, your thoughts could be vanishing in thin air. You could be losing your track of thought as you're going and hoping that you'll find it along the way. Like, just keep talking and be like, I'll find the punchline of this joke eventually. I'm just going to keep talking. Could be an energy. You could also find that you're glossing over details at this time. You could find that you are a little bit in your own world, a little disconnected from this physical world. I also want to highlight that today at 3:56 p.m. we have the first quarter moon in Aries. So this calls back last week's Capricorn new moon, which, by the way, let me know how that was for you. If you did any sort of rituals, if you did a vision board, let me know. But this is the first check-in point to that lunation. And the first quarter moon in Aries asks for courage, right? Like, the energy of Capricorn is the end result, at least fixing our goal on the end result. But knowing that that end result requires a messy first draft, and that imperfect action is better than not taking action at all. Sometimes that idea that it needs to be perfect and everything needs to be dialed in holds us back. Because with the energy of first quarter moon in Aries, sometimes you just got to start somewhere. You just got to start somewhere. And it takes courage to start something. It takes courage to be bad at something, right? But that's where we get to that finished project. No one who's a finished product or professional started like that. Everybody starts somewhere. So if you feel like you're delaying until it's all perfect, until it's all dialed in, start today, because you learn from the doing. That's the thing. We could dream and concoct this beautiful plan, but we will not deal with the finite restrictions of reality until we take action here in the 3D. And again, you can concoct this whole vision within your head around how it's all going to be so dreamy with your, you know, your cake business or what have you. But when you start doing those orders, you have to problem solve around what happens if I did pink icing and they requested blue, right? That's where we learn, is in those mistakes, is in those messy first drafts, and having the courage to try, having the courage to start somewhere, having the courage to, you know, start a social media page, only if it has, you know, a couple of followers at first, or start having the courage to take cake orders. Even if you have this vision of having this whole bakery, starting with just taking orders. We all start somewhere, And the first quarter moon in Aries is asking you to have the courage to start, to try, to initiate. And I don't share this in a way to like guilt you. If you are in a space where you're a little bit more reflective, you are being conscious around what you're exerting your energy to, you are doing exactly what you're meant to be doing with Mars in Cancer retrograde. It's not saying that you need to start all the things and launch all the things. It's just that if you are waiting for something to be perfect, there's like a nudge on Monday around imperfect action is better than not taking action at all, as well as knowing that it takes courage to start somewhere. It takes courage to be bad at something. Sometimes it's hard when it means something to us because the moon in Aries is answering to that Mars in Cancer. So it's bigger than just the cake business, right? It's like, this is our passion. This is our baby. And whenever we take something that's our baby, something that we're passionate about, something that's sacred, something that exists within our ethers, and put it out into the world, it's like having a heart on the outside of our body, right? It's out in the world and so vulnerable. It could receive criticism. It could receive annoying situations in which the icing is wrong and we have to communicate to the customer or what have you. But it's worth it. If it means something to you, it's worth it. It's worth it learning from the messiness of it. It's worth it to build and to initiate the conditions that you want to see within this world. So for some of you, there could be an ask to kind of unlock those courage codes. For others, you know, the energy of Aries, we can be feeling a little sassy, a little spiky. We might not be so direct around it. Remember, answering to Mars in Cancer, which sometimes is a little passive as it relates to how it moves through the anchor. So we could be a little fiery. We could be a little feisty today, and whether you're on the receiving end of this or you're on the giving side of this, it feels like it is coming from a more vulnerable place. And that's important to bear in mind with your dealings with others. Maybe you're the partner who got the yogurt and you're like, you will live. Like, there's yogurt in the fridge for you. Like, where is all this coming from? Maybe you're that person, and it's important with the Chiron energy activated that people might be feeling triggered this week, and it likely is coming from a deeper place. Not that it's appropriate for people to be taking out their anger on you or anything like this, but with the energy of Chiron, it's just important to honor that hurt people. Everybody's battling their own battle, and if there's something that feels blown out of proportion, that likely indicates that it's something much deeper that's beneath the surface. That's not necessarily your responsibility to tend to or to caretake to. Again, Mars retrograde in Cancer, you got to pick your battles. Not everything you need to get involved with or get to the bottom of it, but sometimes it's just acknowledging, okay, this doesn't make sense of a reaction, so I recognize that you must be dealing with something much deeper that I'm not privy to. So as tense energies kind of build later in the day, I will say earlier in the day, we do have the Aries moon sextile Jupiter in Gemini, so the day could start on a more playful note. Again, let me walk to the coffee shop. Let me get a coffee. Let me chat with this coworker. Like, you could just have some interesting side quests, I would say, where you could learn something. You could take on a new challenge, something like this. So on Tuesday, January 7th, around midday, the Aries moon will trine Mercury in Sagittarius, and then it will square off with who it's answering to, Mars, at 1:16 p.m. So again, some of that feisty, spiky energy may carry over into Tuesday morning, but at least with the moon trining Mercury, we might feel like we're able to actually express how we feel. Like with Mercury square Neptune, again, we could have got lost in the sauce of semantics or been like, what was my initial point here? Or not being able to find the words. And with moon, especially Aries moon, very authentic, very true to itself, trining Mercury, we could find like we are more able to find the words. We can also find that we are having conversations, authentic conversations with other individuals. Just with moon square Mars, you could be feeling either a little bit more spiky or you could be feeling a little bit more trained. Moon and Mars are in mutual reception right now, so they're in one another's rulers, so they're answering to one another, but they're a little bit of a showdown. So you could be finding that energetically you're wanting to protect your emotions, your vulnerable parts of yourself, but you could also find that you are taking action from a more emotional space. So just being conscious of that. The moon is then void until it enters Taurus at 2:11 p.m. This is where the moon exalts, so it's comfy cozy here. This is shift towards sensuality, towards pleasure, towards comfort, but we may not feel the more grounding energy of this Taurus moon until after it squares off with Pluto, which happens at 4:22. So you could be feeling kind of like drained. I just don't have time for this. I don't have energy for this. You could just be feeling a little blah, just a little bit at work, just like I want to be taking a nap or I'd rather be doing something else. But the evening time looks lovely. We've got the Taurus moon sextiling who it's answering to Venus in Pisces, which is exalted. So we've got an exalted moon, an exalted Venus, and they're making a sextile, which is a harmonious flow of energy. It's a soft flow of energy, but they have the opportunity to work together. So on Tuesday evening, I would really recommend make a good meal, light a delicious candle, take a bath and listen to a guided meditation. Get lost in a world. This world is dense. This world is a lot. And so we need to find those opportunities for pleasure and comfort and leisure and connection. You know, with Venus and Pisces, we got to take little vacations from reality every so often, right? To just tend to our inner world. Every so often you have to leave your own world and go back to work or go back to whatever situation has you feeling some type of way. But the more that you tend and caretake for your inner world, whether that's your home, whether that's your emotional state, because a lot of times when we're overstimulated, we're overwhelmed, right? We've got moon square Pluto. Maybe there's something at work that just made you feel some type of way. Maybe there's something you're nervous about or just you're feeling emotionally fraught. We typically are not the most effective nor productive when we're in that sort of state. You might be like, well, Haley, Comet, I gotta handle this and I gotta handle this. Sometimes you just gotta stop, drop, and self-care. And that's what Tuesday night is giving, because when you pour into yourself, it's not that it changes the problem, but it changes the way you look at the problem. You often don't find the solution when you're in the problem, hyperfixating and obsessing over it. And sometimes when you're in that space around just pouring into yourself, reminding yourself that there's loveliness to experience in life, there's beauty in the world, there's art in the world, oftentimes it helps you diminish those problems into their proper size around, you know, it's a bad coworker, it's not a bad life. It's a couple of breakfasts with plain yogurt, it's not that big a deal. Oftentimes when we are in that space where we're hyperfixating on small details, it represents that we're feeling overstimulated and overwhelmed by a lot of different things, and this is just the chosen thing that we've decided to fixate on. So sometimes the best thing that you could do before you present your 5-page argument around the yogurt incident, sometimes the best thing that you could do is be like, I'm really sitting here stewing about yogurt. I need to take a bath. I need to go outside. I need to look at a cloud. So on Wednesday, January 8th, I want to let you know that early in the morning is when Mercury enters Capricorn. And this is good news for all of us. Again, Mercury in Sagittarius is wise, philosophical, funny a lot of times, but it was not dignified. Like Mercury does not particularly thrive being in Sagittarius. It's peregrine in Capricorn. It's neutral, but at least it's a shift where we could have been getting lost in the sauce, right? With the energy of Mercury in Sagittarius, Mercury in Capricorn is like focusing on the recipe, not getting lost in the sauce, focusing back to the recipe around, okay, what are we doing here? And how can we move forward, right? Conflict is going to be a part of life, and there's really an ask. Again, not all of us are going to have conflict this week, but if you do, like there's an ask with Mercury and Capricorn, how can we grow forward? How can we fix this? How can we be future oriented? How can we be solution oriented? You know, we could stew and talk about the semantics of the yogurt and but like, how can we find a solution? Do we need like a shared grocery list where maybe I recommend my other favorite flavors of yogurt should the unspeakable occur again and they're out of vanilla yogurt, right? Like, are there tangible solutions? How can we fight forward, right? Not getting lost in the conflict and you did this and I was triggered here and you were triggered here, but around how we're going to progress moving forward. And Mercury doesn't have to deal with conflict. I'm just referencing that in vibe check. It's really around communication. So maybe at work, it's like if there's been certain misunderstandings with Mercury square Neptune, with Mercury and Capricorn, it's like, how can we fix this problem? And rather than dialed into who did what and who's at fault with Mercury and Capricorn, it's like, okay, egos aside, let's just focus on how we're going to solve this, how we're going to move forward. Like that's the energy of Mercury and Capricorn, is language that is supportive for moving forward, for solving problems, for building and ascending what it is that we want. With Mercury and Capricorn, there could also be a focus on, you know, delegating or being intentional with your language to communicate what you want. Again, with Mercury square Neptune, people can't read minds. Sometimes we build this whole story around, they should have known that they should have gone for strawberry if vanilla was out, like they should have known. Have you said that? And with Mercury Capricorn, it's like being very grounded and pragmatic around saying it. Like with Mercury square Neptune earlier in the week, it could be like, they should know. With Mercury and Capricorn, it's like, let them know. Step into the leader, the boss of your life, and let people know what you need, how you expect it to be treated, what you expect from this project. If you oversee individuals, there's just a focus around being very exacting and intentional with our language. And with Mercury and Capricorn, sometimes it can come across as stern, but we're standing on business. Okay, we've got a Capricorn sun, we've got Mercury and Capricorn, we're standing on business. And like any business person would, whether it's in a business context or in other arenas, it's really staying focused on, the end result, or at least where we're building to, or how we're going to get to where it is that we want to get. Right, with Mercury and Capricorn. And again, just being very intentional around what you are building mentally, how you are framing certain problems. Problems are inevitable. Every level of success, you will find new problems, new levels, new devils, like truly. And we talked about this in reference of, pick your heart, but I want to bring it up here around, it's important how you frame problems. See problems as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow, and to gain mastery in a new arena. That's how entrepreneurs have trained their mind to view problems. Even within relationships, training your brain, your thinking around, okay, we have a disagreement. This is an opportunity to grow our connection by seeing how we can alleviate this particular problem. Last week, I shared with you all that I was getting a dishwasher installed. I know you were on the edge of your seat waiting for an update on that, like really riveting content here in the Cosmic Corner. I got a dishwasher. And unfortunately, they were not able to install it because where I live is quite old, and how my old dishwasher that was truly on its last legs, my poor dishwasher. Again, I can romanticize older things or things that are a little bit wilted. Even my Pisces sun and Venus could no longer romanticize my dishwasher. It was on its last leg. But I guess it's so old that it's no longer up to code by way of the electricity. So of course it couldn't be easy. It couldn't just be installed. I have to call an electrician and get an outlet installed. And part of me wanted to be like, this is so annoying. Why can't my life be easy? But part of me recognized that this is helping me. Every problem does help you. It teaches you something. You learn a lot from your problems. So my having this problem, I'm like, okay, I could reframe this and really see this as an opportunity around, now I get to find an electrician. I've never had to hire an electrician before, so now I get to, get different quotes and get people to look at the issue, and this is going to behoove me in the future, having an electrician in the area who I trust. I can have them look at some of my other electricity questions and concerns around this place. This is going to be a gift. Yeah, it's extra money, it's an extra hassle. I really just wanted my new dishwasher right away, but I really strove around how can I make this something that's going to help me grow and going to help me move forward. So there is an aspect with Mercury Capricorn where you could potentially do that around certain arenas within your life. And that might be even more important because at 5:54 p.m. on Wednesday, we have the Capricorn sun squaring Chiron in Aries. And with every problem, we have an opportunity, yes, around how to mentally frame it, how to use our communication in order to solve it, but we also choose what it affirms about ourselves. Again, that situation, it could have fed this line of thinking around woe is me. Of course, I try to do one thing for my home and it doesn't work out. I'm so useless. I know nothing about electricity. I know nothing about electricians. I could have fed that self-concept or that way of seeing myself. And I think it's important if triggers do surface around this makes me feel not capable, just reverts me back to feeling like a little girl and not knowing how anything works. It makes me kind of revert into that self. Again, we can have compassion for that while not feeding into that, right? Not feeling like a victim of our circumstances, learning from our circumstances with Mercury and Capricorn. And with the energy of the Capricorn sun squaring Chiron, there just could be certain things that are triggering as it relates to your sense of self. You could get some work feedback that kind of bruises your ego. You could have some sort of subscription program and someone unsubscribes. So there's just something that you're taking personally that you really don't have to take personally. It's just important this week, just know everybody's fighting their own battle. Everybody's dealing with the whole thing. You can internalize it and be like, this means that I'm bad and they didn't like my subscription or what have you. Or it could mean that maybe that person's financial circumstances changed and just didn't fit into their budget. Again, be mindful of the worlds that you concoct or the details that you fill in that validate a certain worldview that you have around not feeling confident around what it is that you have to share. And I think this energy just reminds us that we could be, grown, we could be accomplished, we could have all these milestones and still have certain experiences that revert us back to being, 7 and feeling overlooked, right? Chiron represents these deep wounds that we have, these painful stories, and that could be coming up literally within our career, within our outer perspective, or it could just be this energy around, gosh, I feel like I should be better or more knowledgeable about this or more capable of this or more competent of this. It's like there's still energies within me where I feel small and I feel not capable. I feel like a little child in a grown adult's body trying to pretend like I know what I'm doing and I don't know what I'm doing. Like that could be an energy with Sun square Chiron. There could be certain things that bruise your ego today, and it's just important to know that you are not your job, you are not your outer external environments, you are not the sum of your failures nor your successes. And it's not internalizing who you are with what you have or what you've achieved. Because with the square to Chiron, no matter what you do, you can't escape healing. You know, you can't achieve your way out of healing. It's a very Capricorn Sun square Chiron energy, in that we tend to think at this next milestone, then I'll feel competent and capable, then I'll feel grown. But it's like we just get there. There's still elements within us where we don't know what we're doing. And I think a cheat code to life is like recognizing that honestly and truly, nobody truly knows what they're doing. Like I'm sure the age that you are now, when you were younger, you thought, oh, at that age, I'll have it all figured out. And the adults seemed so much more adulty at that time. And even now you might be like, I still don't feel like the age that I am. And with the energy of Sun square Chiron, it could be kind of internalizing around, I should be further than I am, or I should know more than I am, or I should be more competent than I am. It's a trap, because the nature of Capricorn just reminds us that the milestones constantly shift. As soon as we get this promotion, then we want this. As soon as we get this achievement, then we want this. That's the purpose of being alive, is growing and evolving. So don't feel like that confidence is waiting for you, that joy is waiting for you at the next accomplishment. And with the energy of Sun square Chiron, don't feel that you are not worthy as a human being because you're not where you thought that you should be, is kind of the energy here. And so with that being said, there could be certain ego punches or not feeling as confident, not feeling as sure as yourself, but the moon is in Taurus all day long, grounded, steady energy. It sextiles Saturn, it trines Capricorn Sun, so it feels like a great day to be productive, to be efficient, to focus on the matter at hand. On Thursday, January 9th, there is an energy around allowing life to surprise you and allowing yourself to surprise you, allowing your desires to surprise you, allowing your motivation to surprise you. And I say this because the moon aligns with Uranus at 6 a.m. So there could be emotions that catch you by surprise, events that catch you by surprise. You could just be feeling a little bit more restless potentially. And there's just an ask to flow with how things are rather than how you'd like them to be. Again, in my dream Pisces world, I would have preferred my dishwasher to just be installed flawlessly without having to deal with this electrician drama. But that's just not how the cookie crumbled. And I'm going to look for opportunities to grow through it, and I'm just going to allow life to surprise me. Doesn't life just have a way of keeping us on our toes? And sometimes, you know, our own desires surprise us around, I meant to do this today, but I'm feeling more inspired to work on this. Yes, I see this with the Taurus moon sextiling Mars and Neptune, who are building to trine one another over the weekend. You can feel spirit talking to you based on where you're feeling motivated, where you're feeling passionate about, what you're feeling guided to want to invest energy towards. Because here's the thing, you really cannot snooze spirit. You really cannot snooze motivation and inspiration. You got to grab it when it comes in. You might think you're going to remember that poem idea, you're going to remember that screenplay idea, you're going to remember that song idea. You think that it's going to come back, but it's like a bird. It lands on you and then it flutters away, right? And we have to gently take hold of inspiration as it comes in. And sometimes that shows up around, I should work on this, but for some reason I'm feeling motivated to go and look at furniture. You know, we're not in the mood to do the same thing all of the time. And sometimes when we just recognize that our body is communicating to us, our motivations are communicating to us, we take hold of these opportunities. Maybe you never feel like furniture shopping, and all of a sudden you have a motivation where you're in the mood to. Moods are also something that you need to grasp as they're there, because things are constantly changeable. You might try to snooze around, I'll look for furniture tomorrow, I'll look for furniture tomorrow, and then wake up the next day and no longer in the mood to do so. Right? And you know, the energy of Taurus, the easiest way to conceptualize this is just thinking about cravings. You know, a lot of times when we have cravings, it is our body wanting to communicate with us or trying to communicate with us around certain nutrients that we are deficient in. Now, it's not to say that we need to satiate every craving, but a lot of times what feels yummy, your body's trying to signal like, hey, we're a little low in vitamin K, we're a little low in potassium or in this. So it's really just honoring your body as the intuitive being that it is. And Taurus moon is very tactile, it's very sensual. So whether it's considering different projects, considering different meals, sometimes just tuning into how things feel, even how invitations feel. Does it feel like a yes, like within your body, feeling open, or does it feel like a no, like yuck, I don't know, doesn't feel right? Like that's also a way that you can sort of tap into your intuition, just how things feel, right? Taurus moon, Mars and Cancer, how does it feel? And so long as you're kind of following those nudges, it should be a productive day. The moon is then void at 2:50 until it enters Gemini at 7:24 p.m. So when the moon enters Gemini, there's a lot more focus around our intellectual world, our mental world, our verbal world. And it is important to note that we are building to a full moon. The Cancer full moon lands next Monday, the 13th. So we've got a full moon in domicile, right? Moon in Cancer on Monday, also known as Moon Day. So the moon is mooning. And when the moon is mooning, the emotions are emotioning. So I just want you to bear that in mind, just because as we get closer to that full moon, you could just feel like emotions are a little bit more intense or coming to the surface, or certain arenas are being spotlighted. Taking the focus back to Thursday, I would say with the energy of Gemini moon, you might feel like you're in the mood to want to connect or socialize. And with the trine to Pluto, you could feel more regenerated or revitalized by the contacts that are in your world. So Friday's astrology is kind of giving one of those work days where there's like kind of a lot of buzzy mental energy. Again, Gemini is a little nervous, it's a little excitable, it's a little restless. It's always around acquiring different pieces of knowledge and connecting it with other people. There is something that feels a little restless, especially as we build towards the full moon, and a little ungrounded with the Gemini moon squaring Venus in Pisces. But it's interesting looking at the astrology of Friday because there's good vibes, right? The Gemini moon aligns with Jupiter. There's different things that are making us feel good or feel more connected to other humans. But at the end of the day, around 7 p.m., the Gemini moon squares Saturn in Pisces, which is sort of this sobering reality check. Like maybe we spent the whole day kind of like fluttering from coworker to coworker or learning about different things. And then at the end of the day, realizing, ooh, I didn't do any of the things that I meant to do today, or being at happy hour with their coworkers and sipping a Mai Tai and then realizing, did I send that email to that really important client that I said I would send by EOD? And here I am, it's EOD and I'm sipping a Mai Tai. That's like the worst when you remember something at the end of the day, like if you're a server getting into bed at the end of the night and then realizing, did I ever give table 6 their pepper that they asked for? Did that ever happen? There could be something like this that you experience at the end of Friday, but it's because you might have been lost in the good vibes, right? With the moon on Jupiter, you could have been talking to your other tables, talking to tables 1 through 5 and forgetting about the pepper for table 6, or chatting or gathering the resources for one of your coworkers' birthday and then realizing, oops, the time that I was chatting with everybody should have been time that I was sending that email. It just feels like there's something at the end of the day. It's either regret or it just could be like just sobering reality check. Important to know, it's very loose at this point, but we still do have that Jupiter square Saturn like tension somewhat in the air, so that also might be something to kind of revisit, because even if we follow the moon through its aspects, the Gemini moon square Venus in Pisces, sometimes when a new idea comes in or we have a certain vision or we have a certain dream, we get so excited about it, right? Especially with the moon then hitting Jupiter. But every new level of growth does require certain sacrifices. With the square to Saturn, does require certain structure, does require certain discipline in order to chisel it. And you could be excited about something new while also feeling overwhelmed by what it's asking of you or from you. So some of you could deal with something like that on Friday. The biggest thing with the Gemini moon energy, what am I learning from this? Because with the Gemini moon square Saturn, there might be something that's a little bit of a bummer. It's a little bit of an ouch. What am I learning from this? If you can walk away from every situation having learned something, you will never lose. You will never lose. You only lose when you don't learn from your mistakes, when you stay stuck in the same cycle and we don't learn the lesson. And sometimes it sucks to have to learn the lesson, and beyond just learning the lesson, integrate the lesson. I want to bring up another storyline in case this shows up romantically for anyone, because you know, the Gemini moon square Venus could also be getting excited about getting to know someone new, and with the energy of the moon on Jupiter, envisioning or imagining your lives together. And then with the square to Saturn, just like acknowledging around, okay, in reality, it won't work. And that's something I want to express about Venus and Pisces, is that something does not need to be in reality in order for it to have meaning, or in order for it to be special, or in order for it to be a special connection. Because Venus exalts in Pisces. This is where Venus prefers to be. And I think this just speaks to the nature of love altogether. That love knows no forms, knows no bounds, it knows no expectations. Now, that is not me saying that just because you love someone, you should let them treat you every which way, that you shouldn't have standards and limits. Absolutely not. Saturn's also in Pisces, okay? So that's not what I'm saying. But you can love someone so much and appreciate who they are from afar. Sometimes it's almost selfish for us to force someone to show up in a particular way if it's not true to their path. I am a believer, and this might be my Venus Pisces, but I'm a believer that if you love someone, it's not about possessing them or saying you need to be in my physical 3D life. It's acknowledging the divinity of who it is that they are and acknowledging that means our paths may diverge. For you to blossom as the authentic soul you're meant to be, and for me to blossom as the authentic soul I'm meant to be, that may indicate that our paths take us in different directions, which can suck to take on, right? The moon squaring Saturn. Sometimes we have to deal with things around, wow, I guess it's not going to work out in this lifetime, and that's okay. You know, we can love someone and appreciate all of the lessons and gifts that they gave us without needing to see them every day or have them within our life or have a title or have certain expectations around how it is that they show up. That's why I'm of the belief that sometimes the most loving thing that you can do for both yourself as well as others is let them go. Truly, if you recognize this is creating more toxicity and more harm, this is taking us both away from the path that we're really meant to be on, and I'm just clinging because I want to possess you or because my ego has attached to some sort of validation that I feel like only that you could give me, how selfish to cling to you and stagnate your growth, stagnate my growth. If I love you and I want the best for you, which is what true love is, it's beyond needing to consume you, needing to possess you. How selfish of me to cling to you just because I want you within my life. I can honor that the love that we share extends eternally and boundlessly and is not limited to us being in one another's lives or being committed towards another. There will be people who are life partners, people who you can build with and navigate life with, but it's not forcing people who are really just meant to come in for a season or to awaken something particular with us into that role where it doesn't fit. And sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow. As loving as it is, both for others as well as ourselves, to let go, sometimes it's hard to let go. It's a bitter pill to swallow around, maybe I won't see you within this particular lifetime, and I love you and I appreciate you and I'm so grateful for all that I learned from you, right? The energy of Gemini, what you learned from this. And sometimes learning and wisdom, it takes application. And that application is the Saturn energy around boundaries, around limits, around saying, I can love you forever in the ethers, but in the physical 3D, you're not showing up in the way that I would need someone to, and I don't want you to be not true to yourself. I don't want me to be not true to myself. So this is just a sign that our paths are meant to diverge. And that's okay. And we can find peace and serenity in that around not this lifetime, the next one. You know, I've been in certain dynamics where it's just so clear that it was not meant to be. It felt very romantic, again, in a very misguided way, but it felt romantic at the time, this kind of like us versus them mentality. And that showed up around everybody in our personal lives who was like, for the love of God, you guys should not be together. This is really toxic. Like all you guys do is destroy each other. But also it was like us versus destiny, right? Like clearly destiny is trying to rip us apart, but I don't care if it's not meant to be. We're going to make it meant to be. We're going to make it work. And sometimes you can love someone so much, you can appreciate them so much, and sometimes things are just not meant to be. And sometimes things that we learn, it's hard to make that decision, whether it's to let go or whether it's to integrate, you know, the data that an argument with our lover came up. Sometimes it's not easy because it's not just about learning a lesson, it's about enacting it. And that's challenging. And sometimes that's even heartbreaking. But Venus in Pisces is a reminder that if you have loved someone, that love continues. It knows no forms. It knows no limits. You can love someone from afar. You can want the best for someone from afar. And if it gives you any comfort, you just be like, okay, see you next lifetime. Because truly, what's meant for you will not pass you. And with Venus and Pisces, it's really remembering that to a romantic level. Like the people that you were destined to partner with and meet with and collaborate with, you will find when the time is right. You don't need to settle for someone who takes you out of your integrity or takes you away from what it is that you are called to do. It's safe to love from a distance. Be like, I'll see you in the next lifetime and maybe in a dream or two. maybe in a dream or two, but until then, next lifetime. So on Saturday, 111, and so today is significant because this is when the nodes shift. So North Node enters Pisces, South Node enters Virgo. For some reason, I had it on my calendar for next week, so deepest apologies that I'm having to be editing Haley in talking about it. But interestingly, a lot of the themes that I talk about this week are already embodying this energy, thankfully. But this is a major shift because we are being asked to flow, to trust, to follow our intuition. And with South Node Virgo, we are being asked to release how we think that things should be or release any idea of perfection. Like with North Node Pisces, it truly is an energy around embracing the forest of our life and not nitpicking the trees, right? South Node Virgo, we could find a flaw in anything. We could find a flaw in any person. We could find a flaw in every, grocery order that our partner brings by. And with the energy of North Node Pisces, it's staying attuned to the bigger picture around what really matters to your soul, as well as trusting. Because the energy of Pisces is around flowing with the universe. The energy of South Node of Virgo is around having order, having control, having a plan. And like I was talking about in yesterday's astrology, sometimes things are just not meant to be. And the ask with North Node in Pisces is to embrace the divinity of that, to trust in the divine and its plan, even if it's not what you wanted, to trust that things will eventually make sense. And also with South Node Virgo, it's this energy around releasing perfectionism. So I'm trying not to be hard on myself that I had North Node entering Pisces down for next week for some reason. Sometimes we have plain yogurt instead of vanilla. Sometimes we have editing Haley instead of recording Haley, who's all professional. It is what it is. We keep it going. We keep it flowing. The Gemini moon sextiles Chiron a little after midnight. So again, this could be an energy to rework whatever was a little disappointing the night prior. With the sextile to Chiron, it's an acknowledgement of something that's bittersweet, right? Like whether it's, oh, this person wasn't meant to be within this lifetime, or, oh, that wasn't great that I forgot to send that client that particular thing, but it's reframing it around what did I learn from it? Again, with that Gemini moon energy. The Gemini moon squares Neptune at 4:03 p.m. So the entire day, you could feel this Neptunian kind of like, where am I and what is real type of energy. It kind of reminds me of having a hangout with a friend where you guys are just kind of like in your own world together and you lose track of what you're meant to be doing. Like you guys are shopping at a boutique and then one of you grabs a matcha and you guys had talked about seeing a movie, but it's like, do we want to see a movie? What movie do we want to see? And then you pull out your phone to look at the different theaters, but then they see a place that they want to go eat and you guys are just getting kind of lost in spending time with one another, where you have to like ground yourself and be like, okay, what are we doing? That could kind of be the energy on Saturday. Or maybe you're having to ground yourself around, what am I doing? Like getting lost around, okay, I'm going to clean out the fridge. But then you open the fridge and you see some vegetables that are about to go bad. So you're like, I'm going to juice these and then I'm going to clean the fridge. And then you juice them and you're sipping the juice and your friend calls. So there just could be an energy where we're getting a little sidetracked. Speaking of a sidetrack, I want to highlight a journey that I am very excited about, is that I'm currently on a juicing journey. I got a juicer for Christmas and it has been such a dream just being able to experiment with making different sorts of juices. Like truly, I know this is going to sound very Virgo moon and rising of me, but like green juice holds such a special place in my heart. And now I just feel so empowered because I get to choose. I get to choose what fruits I want in there, what vegetables I have in there. So anyways, I'm on a juicing journey, loving my juicing journey. We'll keep you guys updated. Back to our astrological journey. The moon enters Cancer at 8:24 p.m. So that ends the void. So we have a void moon from 4:03 until 8:24 p.m., which is going to add to this kind of like unproductive, dreamy, lost in our own world energy, with that closing aspect being the square to Neptune. And with the moon in Cancer, it's really sharpening into focus the importance of our home, the importance of what's sacred to us. Whenever I think about the Capricorn Cancer axis, I just always come back to that quote around the root of all ambition is to be happy at home. Like truly, you can achieve all the things, have all of the milestones, but at the end of the day, if you don't feel, at home within your own soul, if you don't have a space that you can retreat to and withdraw and tune into what makes you happy, it will ultimately feel hollow. And the more that you nourish the home of your soul and yes, your physical residence, the more you're actually able to achieve out in the world. So there could be contemplations of this as we build to Monday's full moon. On Sunday, January 12th, we have Mars trining Neptune. And because Mars moves pretty slow, I would give this a nice wide window of when you could feel this. You could feel this as it builds. You could feel this as it separates next week. So just knowing that this exacts on Sunday, but it is by no means limited to Sunday. And this is the energy I was speaking around following those nudges of inspiration. You could also find that you're advocating for either self or others from a very compassionate, selfless place, right? Sometimes Neptune energy can dissipate and disappear. So there could be an energy around being in the midst of this argument over the yogurt and realizing halfway around, what am I fighting about? I've lost my point with Mercury squared Neptune and I don't want to fight. Like, let's just let it go, right? With the energy of Mars trine Neptune. It also could be putting our energy into something that's very soulful, something that's very sacred, following your nudges around what that may be. I would also say this is a great time to really move your body. Move your body as a way to nourish yourself. Be very conscious, especially those of you who may have had a New Year's resolution or something around, I need to start working out. When we work out and we focus upon what we don't want, we're like, I'm working out because I feel like this, or my body feels like this, and I want it to be like this. And we approach it from this very spiky energy around punishment and guilt and beating ourselves up around your body needs to be different. That's not very nourishing. That's not very loving. And so it's really honing in on, yes, maybe there are certain physical results that you want to move towards, but it's seeing it around, I'm nourishing myself. My body is drinking up this exercise. My soul is so happy that I'm taking time to prioritize what's sacred or what makes me feel like my best. They say that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And while that's more so speaking around, it's better to do things that prevent certain issues coming up rather than to address those issues once they do come up. It's also this energy around moving towards what you want. If that's health, if that's fitness, having that vision in mind is so much better than battling against what you don't want. So just keeping that top of mind as you are working out, as you're moving your body, see it as something that's nourishing. Your body just cheerleading you like, yay, we're moving, we're grooving, we're juicing. Spiritually, our bodies do respond to the ways that we treat ourselves. Not even just what we eat and how we move our body, also how we talk to ourselves. So it's just making your home a nourishing place to be, but also making the body of your home a very nourishing place to be, honing in on that vision of vitality and health that you want to experience rather than what you're trying to battle or what you're trying to fight is going to be supportive at this time. Overall on Sunday, it just feels like a really lovely day to pour intentionality into what you are doing, to really be present with who it is that you're connecting to. There may be misunderstandings. The moon opposes Mercury in Capricorn at 6:53 a.m. Our emotions can fog the realistic facts of a situation. It doesn't mean that our emotions are not valid, but sometimes it can fog the realistic size of the issue around, okay, in the bigger scheme of things, it's not the hugest issue that the yogurt is plain rather than vanilla. Let's minimize it to its proper side. I'm allowed to feel how I feel, but let me focus with the energy of the Cancer moon trining Venus at 1:56. Let me focus on harmonizing. And with the Cancer moon trining Saturn at 11:30 p.m., let me focus on moving forward. And the full moon exacts tomorrow, so you could feel some emotions. Energetically, you could be feeling drained or very charged up. The lunation is a little tense. I do want to let you know that the lunation aligns with Mars and opposes Pluto, so people could be a little spiky, people could be a little sensitive, and so the Cancer moon energy could just be really tuning into your foundations and what makes you feel safe and nourished so that you're more prepared to handle the spikiness that may be in store with this full moon, which of course we'll be breaking down in detail in next week's Magic Monday. But my loves, that is our week. So our Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I prioritize what is sacred. I protect what is sacred. Mars in Cancer asks us to be our own mama bear. so to speak, to fiercely advocate for those vulnerable parts of ourselves. Again, sometimes we can get lost in the sauce of the Mercury square Neptune energy and build something up that's not invalid, but it's out of proportion or it's directed towards the wrong thing. But nevertheless, you are showing up for yourself. You are standing up for yourself. This can be an energy where you're mama bearing something else within your life that's sacred. And maybe you have a hard time doing that for yourself. Maybe if someone were to dare comment on your cat, or someone were to dare comment on your child, you would get into that protective mode. Maybe that's harder to do for yourself. Maybe there's an energy where at times you do feel, trampled over, not seen. That's the energy of Sun square Chiron, and not worthy of standing up for these vulnerable parts of yourself, those emotional needs within you. There is absolutely productive ways to deal with conflict, and I think with the energy of Mars trine Neptune, it's seeing disagreements or issues as an opportunity to grow forward, to learn, yes, but also to evolve spiritually, and to see the more that we stand up for ourselves, the more that we echo and see ourselves around, I'm someone who's worthy of advocating for. Again, we pick our battles, right? With Mars retrograde, maybe the yogurt wasn't exactly the wisest usage of our energy, that we need to be intentional about safeguarding with Mars retrograde. But in reference to the vibe check, the work issue, it's like with Mars in Cancer, it's just knowing, I'm someone who's worthy of fighting for. I'm worthy of being my own kind of like fierce advocate, my own mama bear. Or maybe it's even protecting your own time at home, protecting your own time with your family. Maybe some of you need to say, no, I can't come in that day because I have my child's recital. Or maybe some of you are advocating for a certain clause within a contract where it's like, okay, industry standard is this, but I've recognized that for me to have the bandwidth to pour into what's sacred for me, this needs to be honored within my external world. Again, there's a real contemplation around what it is that we do out in the world, as well as how we nurture and caretake for our inner world. And Mars is asking us to be a little fierce. Doesn't mean we need to be mean, but be a little fierce around protecting what's sacred to you. It's worth it, and you're worth it. So my loves, if you made it to the end of the forecast, go ahead and comment below the yogurt emoji. Pause as I figure out if there is a yogurt emoji. Okay, so this just in, there's not technically a yogurt emoji. There's like a frozen yogurt emoji, so you can use that. Or you can comment below the rose emoji to give a shout out to our discount bouquet at the grocery store, who is so beautiful. So comment a rose or the yogurt emoji, or use rose or yogurt in a sentence to let me know that you made it to the end. Bonus points if you can work rose and yogurt into a sentence. That reminds me, there was this rose yogurt that I got at a market near that was so good. So this just inspired me that that's absolutely what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow. Anyways, do you see how Mercury square Neptune is alive with getting me sidetracked? My Instagram handle is @HaleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.